Good morning. How are we? Thank you all for being here for our November breakfast briefing. My name is Carl Lumsden. I'm leading the breakfast briefing team here in Dublin. Can I just get an idea of how many of us have been to one of these before? Can you just raise your hand if you've been to one of these before? Okay, wow. And newcomers, first time? Okay. So, sincerely, I want to say thank you to everyone that has come to these before. Welcome to those of you that it's your first time. But particularly for those of you that have been here before, I want to extend a big thank you to you because it's your feedback that has helped shape the Breakfast Briefing series for 2017. Your feedback has designed and given us insight into what you want to hear, what the curriculum should be, and what's useful to you as business owners. We've had sessions on mobile, we've had sessions on YouTube, sessions on what's my website data telling me, what can I use that data for, and how can it be useful to the business. Today is no exception. Can anyone take a stab at what the most common feedback we've had in the last couple of months has been, topic-wise? What was that? Start later. Yes, we have had some of that feedback, you're right. No, it has been around, and it's of course it's all over the news. It's been around Brexit, uncertainty around Brexit, and what's the opportunity? What should I be doing as a business to prepare for this? What should I be looking at going into 2018? We've also heard a lot of feedback from you as well that, as fantastic as some of the sessions have been, that perhaps they've been a little bit conceptual, and you'd love to see a little bit more of the tangible stuff. What can you take away as business owners? What can you actually go back to the office with, sit down and deploy into your strategy for 2018? So, to that end, before I introduce our speaker, what we'll do for next year is there will be a survey sent out after this session, but I'll also send out one in about 3 or 4 weeks' time for what you guys would like to see in 2018. Do you want to see more on internationalization? Do you want to see more on the products and tools that we're releasing? Do you want to see more on YouTube, and so on and so forth? I will say there will be a prize, so if you do send back the feedback form, you'll be entered into a draw to get a prize. So I mentioned that today is no exception to the rule. Your feedback has informed this session, and it's with great pleasure that I want to welcome up Elisabeth Gabster to the stage shortly. Elisabeth joined Google about 2 years ago. She is one of our leading internationalization consultants and has a plethora of experience before joining Google. So without further ado, over to Elisabeth Gabster.
Great. Thank you very much, Carl. And again, welcome to Google, especially for anyone who hasn't been here before. I'm part of a team called the International Growth Team here at Google, and we really exist to help businesses remove their barriers when going international. And a lot of that starts with the users. So I'm really thrilled to be here today and to be showing you some of the tools that we have for you to use. And as we go about the day, we'll have questions at the end. We'll also have questions outside afterwards. Please let us know, give us your feedback with what works, what are other barriers that you might have in mind. I personally specialize in a few different industries. So I'm specialized more in tech B2B, financial trading, gaming, and some other topics. But I have some colleagues that'll be coming afterwards that are focused on other markets and other industries as well. And we can talk about some of the tools we have more broadly. So please, all questions, even if I can't answer, I'll try to pass them on to those who can. So you're all here to talk about international growth. This is a large, complex topic that businesses of all sizes struggle with. So we at Google want to do what we can to help minimize that pain point and help you on your journey. But why is international growth important? First off, where we are today in 2017, we are more connected than we ever have been before. And I think in some ways we're still learning what this means, whereas more and more devices are being built and people are syncing every portion of their lives more and more to technology. I personally remember, this is the first year, just in terms of the global population, actually. Thinking about the world as a whole, not only do we have our 4 million people here in Ireland, but what's going on in the world, we're growing overall, and more users are becoming connected. This is actually a very conservative estimate, 4.1 billion. I've seen up to 7 billion as well being estimates for, in the next 3 years, how many users will be connected globally. And what does that connection actually look like? It's smartphones, it's mobile. I understand you've had that briefing before to talk about mobile device connectivity, but this is growing more and more important. And I think you yourselves probably remember the first time you just had your mobile device and how you started to interact with it and how it changed the way you interact with the world. Probably some of you are on a mobile device right now, and that's great. Like, how does that change the ability to get information instantly and to understand the world around you in a very different way? A lot of it's data. We now have so much more data that we ourselves understand about the world that we have access to than ever before in history. In 1 minute, every 1 minute globally, 400 hours of YouTube are uploaded. Over 140 million emails are sent and received. 2.4 million Google searches in 1 minute. And Uber rides, over 1,000 Uber rides, and I'm sure that's growing as well. So again, how do we make sense of this world? How do we get started when there's all this data going back and forth? And it can be a little bit overwhelming as your business is looking to grow. But as I'm sure you all know, scaling and speed are now considered the norm for any business. It's something in the very early stages, investors are often looking to understand is, what is your plan for growth? How are you going to get new users? How are you going to go beyond Ireland into other markets? Looking back at history, in previous years, different technologies had a little more flexibility. How long did it take to reach 50 million users for all different types of technology? For the telephone, 75 years. It can go a bit slower. The world population was a bit smaller. It took longer to scale, more infrastructure involved. Radio, cut that in half roughly at 38 years. TV, 13 years to reach 50 million users. And then you have Facebook, 3.5 years to reach 50 million users. Look how fast everything's going and how much pressure that is on businesses these days. But then we have the latest and my favorite, it's Pokemon Go. Anyone know how long it took to reach 50 million users for Pokemon Go? Any guesses?
1 year.
I hear 1 year, I hear 3 weeks. 19 days. I'm frankly still really impressed by this one. I think it's a great success story of how did this one app become so globally popular. And I think we'll see more and more cases of that going forward. Again, more users are online, the world's more connected than ever before, but it's also the pressure on you all to build businesses that are scaling quickly. So the one thing we know about the future is that fast and unpredictable change is an absolute certainty. But that's okay. We're going to think about how can we go forward and how can we help you with that. This is one of my favorite quotes from Larry Page that, again, he was speaking more about tech in general, but I think this applies to all types of companies, that if we get comfortable doing the same thing, we're really just making incremental changes. But ultimately, we need to continue to stay uncomfortable, to stay relevant, to stay up on top of what's changing in the world. How are our users, our customers changing in their behaviors, and how do we respond accordingly? And that goes not just for Google, but for all of your businesses. So our mission, again, is to organize the world's information and make it useful and universally accessible. And I personally love that penultimate word, universally. I think that's really important when thinking about international strategy, different markets, how are users connecting in different ways, what languages are they using, what are their different preferences, what's important to them. So as you probably know, we create a lot of different tools. We create tools for big businesses, small businesses, but really, we want to create things for users and businesses of all shapes and sizes that will be useful to you to really own your own growth journey. So some of the tools you probably know very well. So Maps, Google Search, YouTube, efficiency tools like Google for Work and Google Apps, and then some others, such as tools for expanding to new markets. So AdWords, Google Translate, and another one that's brand new that I'll share in a few minutes called Market Finder. So we're constantly thinking about how can we take our data and what we understand about the world, our expertise, and really scale that to you all so you have that information as well. To get there, we first wanted to listen to our customers. We've been actually thinking about this for a long time of what can we do more to really equip you all with tools for international growth. But the first step is really talking and kind of having a listening session. So this was, I think, last year now. We interviewed over 100 companies globally, both everything from startups to massive multinational businesses. And we actually saw a lot of things in common when it came to their international journey and the pain points they were experiencing. Here's one of the quotes, that finding local market data is very difficult and time-consuming, and you never know what you can trust. And that trust point was something that we've really carried with us of, there are so many sources of information out there. If you're new to the international journey, where do you start and how do you know what information's trustworthy and what's not? Another one, topics like payments, translation, shipping, so many others probably depending on the industry you're in. These can be real hurdles if you lack the internal expertise and bandwidth. If you're a startup and maybe you're looking at going even to the UK or to other parts of Europe, maybe you don't have that in-house network and expertise yet. So how do you start? How do you, again, know what information you can trust, know what partners you can trust, know even how to begin this journey? So all in all, again, those common findings that we were finding, so if you're experiencing any of this yourself, know that you're in very good company. That 60% of the companies we talked to said that acquiring reliable market insights was one of the most important needs they had, and that was one of the biggest barriers. 61% wanted more know-how on exporting in general. 58% of the total, again, wanted more support with the operations, that like physically get it after they have those insights, what do they do next, how do they get moving? And 73% wanted to expand further and see what online advertising was right in different markets, what media, how can they actually reach customers in different markets. So again, back to thinking about our value proposition, we really wanted to find a way to provide insights and an end-to-end solution to provide that successful international expansion. And maybe one question as I pause here for a second. Can I see a show of hands with the number of people that are already exporting in some way, even to one market or to many? Okay, we got a couple. And any others that are kind of have it planned for 2018 or in the short-term roadmap? Great, cool. Well, I think this is going to be relevant for everyone because no matter where you are in your journey, if you're already there or you're planning it or it's something much longer term, now is still the time to start thinking about it and building your system so that you're most equipped when it's time to go international. So, say you are ready. Where do you start? I like the assistant, so how can I help? How can we get you to where you need to go? So, I've just broken this down into 3 key steps that I think will help you in planning your international journey. First up, planning, prioritizing, strategizing. This, again, is where, for those of you that don't have necessarily a short-term roadmap to go international, having this plan in place early on is going to be critical to your success in the future when it does come to that time. For those of you that are already kind of moving in that direction or already present, you might be looking at additional markets or how can you really deepen your engagement with other markets. Still, having this plan in place, having a short list is really, really important. So we'll spend a lot of time on this first one just to talk through what are the best ways to even go about this planning phase. Second, operations. This will vary, again, based on your industry, especially if you have physical goods versus if you're an online pure player. But even still, having a presence in that market does entail things like having translations set up, having potentially customer care in the language in the country that you're working with. Again, you will know this best based on your business, but it's still a very, very important step to think about and to plan and to get those partnerships in place. And finally, when you're ready to launch, ensuring that you also have the measurement in place to really get that information that's most valuable to you, that you understand what's the user journey in that market, and how you can optimize in the future for more success, and building your brand. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. Again, I work with some very traditional B2B companies at times. You really, really need to have a strong brand presence in markets, especially when you're new. It comes down to user trust. Will users be aware that your company exists, and will they trust you? Will they actually give their money to you? So keeping that in mind as you're kind of thinking about what's the best way to engage with your potential customers. So starting with number one. Again, as I said, it's never too early to start thinking about internationalization so that when the time comes, you're ready to think about localization. So what do? First, I always recommend start with your own data. Use the data that you've gathered already. If you don't have some of these tools set up, there's a lot of free options available. Google Analytics and Firebase both have kind of free options. There's also paid if you need kind of more advanced. Generally, kind of the short version is Google Analytics is recommended if you're more web-based. Firebase is a little bit more designed for mobile and app-based. Choose what's right for your business. Play with both. Go for it. Google Play Developer Console also, we'll talk about this at the end of it. I believe there's a one-time fee of, I think, $20 or something, and then you have access to a huge number of tools, so your development team may find this very, very useful. And then there's tons of other sources of internal data that you may have set up. These are examples of what Google provides, but use the information you have in your company to understand, are you getting demand from other markets? Is there already an interest in other languages potentially? Is there a pattern that you can see in your users that might lead you to which markets to prioritize for your shortlist? So examples of that. These are again examples from Google tools that you see on the right here, but you'll find this in practically any measurement software that you're using. Look at location language reports. See if you do have traffic coming in to your website or other platforms from different markets, and do you see a spike from certain ones? Look at the demand across your channels, again, in terms of engagement and KPIs, conversions, et cetera, looking at that kind of deeper level. And then looking at demographics or audiences to understand if there's any other key trends in the transaction. In all likelihood, for many businesses, especially if you're on kind of more of an online player, your conversions probably won't just be coming from Ireland. There might be smaller ones, maybe one or two here and there, that might be interest, at least traffic from other markets. So looking at those data sources as a starting point, just to see if there's any trends you're seeing for your business. In some cases, you might already have a small brand awareness in another market and not even realize it. So always kind of the low-hanging fruit there is a good place to think about. This is one success story from Dropbox. We'll send around the link afterwards. This is it was a report on, actually on Reforge was the website that did this report with Dropbox. But talking through their international growth story of how did they get to their 500 million users today. And ultimately, it came down to, again, following that demand, understanding the user journey, and then planning accordingly. So starting with, in 2011, adding new languages, seeing the demand that was there and adding those major options, then building new partnerships in new markets, adding talent and teams to grow in those other markets, expanding more languages, scaling, et cetera. And as you go, more and more international users are coming on board. The lesson with this is really, again, with that plan, prioritize, strategize. Dropbox didn't try to go everywhere in the world at once. They targeted these 4 markets, France, Germany, Spain, and Japan, as a starting point. For you, it will come down to, again, what's right for your business in terms of which markets to prioritize to start. And then once you have that in place, once you've really started to grow there, then starting to look to scale to another 5 markets, another 10, et cetera, picking up momentum as you go. And by then, you'll also have a more well-oiled machine of knowing the process well for your own business. So think about success stories like this. If there's any other companies that you know of that are close in your industry that might have success stories along these lines, read up on them. See what you can learn from a lot of those thought leaders. And you'll often find that it's relevant for your business as well. When you don't have enough internal data or you're looking to supplement it or sense check it, Google's here to help. We have a lot of tools available, and I'll go through each of these. And ultimately, they're all designed to equip you with the information you need to understand what data is out there and plan, again, which markets might be best for your particular industry and your business. So, starting with the first one, who here has used Google Trends? Cool, that's about half. That's pretty good. This is, it's probably existed for at least 5 years or more now. It's one of my favorites in that it's just a really handy, quick tool to understand demand. A lot of times at Google, we'll actually talk about search volume as a proxy for demand. It's not perfect. Completely take that, critique as well. But in many, many markets, especially when we're looking at Europe and the US, many other kind of more mature markets, it's very well correlated with the demand, and it's a really handy way of quickly getting a sense of what's growing, what topics are of interest, where's there the biggest volume, who's thinking about each of these topics. So Google Trends is your best friend for this. So here's an example of what the homepage looked like back in February, actually. What you can do here is you can type in either specific keywords or categories overall, or you can even type in your own business and your competitor's business and kind of see comparisons there. It's all completely public. Anybody can access it, so feel free. So here's an example with luxury goods, some of the types of terms that come up. Play with it a bit, again, see what's going to be the best fit for your industry. And then you can narrow this down. So if you want to look at worldwide, they will highlight specific markets overall that have the highest trending volumes. But maybe you're looking just at the past year. So you can change those filters. You can change exactly what you're looking at. Are you looking at shopping ads in this case, or are you looking at search ads, other versions, just searches overall? All of those options are available. And then you'll see the trends. So what's, in this case, for luxury goods, specifically on Google Shopping in the past 5 years, you can see the demand worldwide has really grown significantly. And actually at the bottom and in the middle here now, you can see the regions. You can see the cities, the countries that are the most popular. If you do choose the filter, by the way, for a country, you can go deeper into that and see even by regions what region of a specific country has the most demand for that topic. And then you'll see a lot of related queries and related topics and the growth related to it. So things, if you are doing any advertising with AdWords, these might be terms you're interested in. But more so, kind of for a strategic perspective, it shows you what are the topics that are growing the fastest, that are really top of mind for users. And what does that tell you about how you can kind of target your business a little bit further? In this case, luxury belts is growing quite fast. If you're a luxury business and maybe you don't have belts offering right now, but when you see that there's this growing demand in search terms, that might trigger the start for an investigation to say, maybe this is a product you should add. Another example is the Greek yogurt fad. When this all started, you could start to see the trends in Google searches before a lot of the yogurt brands even realized that users were, in that case, consumers were starting to want a different type of yogurt, and thus they were able to start kind of developing and offering that style more quickly. So here I'm actually going to switch over to do a demo. This is what I am most excited about for today, actually. This is a tool we just launched yesterday. So very excited for you guys. You're like probably some of the second people in the world to actually see this. We do have flyers outside, so for anyone that maybe came late or didn't get one, they're sitting out by the kind of where you checked in, and we'll send all this via email as well, so you'll have the link in there. But now we're going to switch over to the computer, and I'm going to show you how to use this. So this is a website called Market Finder, and this comes down to exactly the research that we were showing earlier, that a lot of companies just didn't know what data to trust, didn't really know how to sift through it all, and didn't know what really was relevant for their industry and their market. So when you go to this homepage, this is marketfinder.thinkwithgoogle.com. So if you're familiar with Think with Google, just add Market Finder at the front of it. And you can either type your website address right here, or you can choose don't have a website. It brings you to roughly a similar place. And what this tool does, if you go down, you'll see that it's broken down into 3 steps, very similar to the 3 steps I'm talking about today. So the first one is understanding, just planning, prioritizing. What is the short list of markets that are actually right for your business and your particular industry? We do leverage a lot of Google search data. Where are we seeing those trends, similar to the Google Trends tool, to see where's the biggest volume. And then from there, it'll provide guidance in operations for how to go global, as well as how to actually reach the customers. How can you get started in digital? What kind of information do you need to ensure that you're connecting best with the customers in that market you're targeting? So I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to try this with, let's see if this goes, just Think with Google itself, with google.com. OK, and we will see if the tool decides to cooperate. Here we go. It starts to think through and say, OK, what are some common, what are based on the information on your website, what does it pick up as being some of the most frequent topics? So maybe I'm looking at this and I'm saying, OK, well this is pretty good, but marketing consulting, maybe that's not the right category. So I'll remove that one, but I can add categories as well. So these are very high-level topics, so as you're going in, if you're in a very niche industry, they probably won't have a category for that exact topic, but think about it more broadly. If you sell Greek yogurt, maybe Greek yogurt's not in there, but there might be dairy products, or they definitely would have the food and beverage industry. So in my case, OK, I'm maybe in internet and telco. What kind of categories are there? Internet, let's see if there's anything interesting. OK, search engines, maybe, but that's already in there. OK, maybe I'm not finding anything. What about if I just type a word? So if I type in marketing, all right, internet marketing, that looks pretty relevant, and search engine marketing. So adding those in, again, play with those categories, get a sense for what's right for your business. And then what it will do is it'll prioritize markets here based on, this will be based on monthly searches for your specific categories. Estimated bids on average, just to give you a sense of a proxy for how expensive is the market. So the US in this case always has very high volume, so a lot of times for many different categories, the US might come up as first, but they're also one of the more expensive markets. So all of these factors are weighted when bringing in the recommendations. Then it's bringing in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. This is a study they do every year that takes into account how easy is it to set up a business, how easy are there kind of to do operations in that country, all of those factors kind of in general with how accessible is that market. And then an average disposable income for a household in that market, again, to give you a sense of what is the potential value of a customer there. And then you'll see a short list, but what I can see is, OK, I like this. I want to keep going. So here I'll just say test. I'm going to log in. In this case, no, I don't sell physical goods. And let's see. It might make me log in. So, let's see if this works. Sorry for this, guys. There are a lot of ones here. Do you have any that are here? Let's see if this works. Let's try this. Sorry about this, guys. I'm going to see my email for a moment. And I will say, as we're doing through this, that this is a new tool. We are kind of ironing out some of the kinks. Okay, let's see. There we go. So as you're going through this, if there are like particular pieces of feedback, there's actually a portion at the very bottom I'll show you real quick, that actually not on this page, that you can actually submit feedback if you want to improve the tool, if there's more factors you'd like to see in there. So here we have, again, okay, the US is coming up, great, fine. But I'm not really interested in going to the US. Maybe I just want to go to a certain region. So I'm here sitting in Ireland, so maybe I just want to find something close by. So okay, maybe I'll just choose Western Europe overall. So I'll add that as a filter. And then you can already see like which of the ones that it's recommending as kind of for my industry. Where's there the highest demand? Where's there potentially lower costs? And then where is it just a more accessible and valuable market? Now, my favorite part of this tool actually is this option right here, more details. This is because here you will see all sorts of different both Google and third-party metrics that are relevant for that market and for your business. So to start off, looking at a country profile, a lot of this is more macroeconomic data. A lot of this is pulled from, again, sources like the World Bank, the IMF. The point here is that it's all coming into one place so you can quickly see it and access it. You can see the currency, you can see the languages spoken. You can see corruption perception index, which might be important if you're thinking about something where piracy is a concern. Age group, population breakdown by age. Economic profile, again, more macroeconomic. How competitive is the market? This one's really important if you do sell physical goods, the logistics performance index. So how easy is it for you to potentially ship or move goods in that market? Are there barriers to be aware of here? Payment methods. This one comes from WorldPay, so it's based on the e-commerce in that market. What's the breakdown of different payment methods? What should you know? So interestingly, in France, it's 30% of transactions are on debit cards. You can play with this for Ireland, for the UK, for any market as well, markets you know well. It's really interesting to see what the trends are there. And then search and advertising. You can again see what's the online profile of users, what's the breakdown in terms of types of device. So here we are in France still, 62% Android. In Spain, I think it's something like 80%. So when you're designing, if you're designing an app or an M site, which devices should you prioritize in terms of which ones are the users most likely to be on? Depending on which markets you're in, maybe iOS will be the most important, maybe Android, maybe both. And so much more data in here. Purchase behavior. A lot of this portion comes from a tool called Consumer Barometer that we'll show in a minute. But it's everything from how do users in this market do research about different products, how do they go about finding information about local businesses, what is their frequency of purchases from abroad, so again, particularly for any pure players, if they're looking at buying from an Irish website but sitting in France, what's the likelihood there, how often is that happening? So highly recommend going back, playing with this tool, and really understanding what are the right factors that are right for your business. If you're in an industry where there might be some restrictions based on licenses or registrations, maybe the legal side is something that's really of concern. Maybe the tax rate's of concern. Maybe the wage data is very important if you're looking to hire local teams, and then logistics as well. So a lot of this is still being built out, and we want to understand, are there more metrics that you would find useful when looking to prioritize different markets, and how do you use it? So again, type this in, regardless of whether or not you have a website or if you want to just play with any industry you want, choose the categories, put it in there, and then you can say, if you want to add the market, this will save it. You'll then have a short list. And then that's it. So that's it for kind of setting up the planning stage and really looking at all of the data that's available. Again, we really recommend just coupling this with the data you have for your own business, like the internal data, and use this to understand what's going on in the market overall, and what are the trends that you can see there. Where is there the growth? Where's the demand? So let's switch back to the slides now, if we can. Cool. So Market Finder, thinkwithgoogle.com. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what's useful. And hopefully this can really help remove those barriers to help you get going quicker international and figure out where to go. So the next step, say you've got a short list. You've played with Market Finder, you've looked at your internal data, maybe France is attractive, maybe the UK is attractive. You have a couple markets, maybe one or two that you're ready to go into. What's next? How do you actually go about doing this? I'm actually going to shift to a video so you can learn more about it.
With 3.5 billion internet users worldwide, there's a real opportunity for you to find new clients online. Google can help you grow your business by reaching potential new customers anywhere in the world, regardless of the country they're in and the language they speak. At Google, we help businesses to understand which markets have the highest potential and how to expand operations to achieve global success.
International expansion is a complex and dynamic process. We found that a lot of companies have ambition to expand, but are having trouble getting started, and in particular how to set up operations in a different market. Google is here to make it easy for businesses to expand across borders. Thanks to our technology and partnerships, we can help navigate these hurdles.
When entering a new market, first you need to identify which markets have the highest opportunity. You'll need to make sure you're ready to communicate with them in their language, you're set up to accept their preferred payment methods, and that they fully understand your website and your products.
I'm Robin Short, founder of Exploring Vacations. We're an inbound tour operator. Being able to support customers in your new market is critical, but it can be challenging, especially when they speak a different language. With Google's help, we were able to enter markets 3 months quicker, and they helped us to improve our operations in our existing markets.
My name is Nick, and I'm in charge of marketing at Carpet Vista, one of the world's largest online retailers of handmade carpets. With over 100 different payment methods available worldwide and a huge cultural diversity, it is really important to provide the right payment method for the right market. Google took into account our specific needs, such as having high average order values, and provided us with relevant statistics about which payment methods were important and who could provide them.
Mano's ambition is to be the leader in DIY all across Europe. Localization is the best way to show new customers that you care about them. It goes beyond understanding their language. The tone of voice you use, the colors on the website are elements that can impact the results. Google made it very simple for our team to localize Mano's websites. The process was simple, it had a quick turnaround time and a very high quality.
Customer service, payments, and website localization are just 3 barriers to the exciting prospect of international expansion. Talk to us about how we can help identify your next global market and help you overcome operational barriers. Get ready to be global.
So how can we remove those operational barriers and get you to new markets? Well, that same tool, Market Finder, has all this information for you exactly on this topic. So here I've just given some quick screenshots just to walk you through it. Won't go too deep into it, but again, especially if you're at the point where you're already planning to go international and have that short list, or if you're already present and want to kind of ensure that you've got the operations in place, these 2 sections are really the right ones for you in terms of diving in. What you'll find here is a wealth of operation on, again, some of the pain points that we've seen most commonly. We most frequently talk about localization, payments, and customer care because, again, this is what we found from our research across all industries and across all companies that were some of the most common challenges the companies had globally. But you'll find more and more information on this page as well, such as logistics, recruitment, tax, and legal, and probably a lot more to come. So when you go into each section and you explore, you'll see general information. You can always navigate back and forth. Kind of this is the current overall offering for the operations section. And then you can really dive in to see not only best practices, tips for how to get started, but recommendations, data specific to, again, the markets you've shortlisted and the industries you're looking at for what's the breakdown of languages or of, again, maybe payment methods, whatever it might be that's relevant that you're looking at. And then what are some of the tools that can help you in getting there? So Google Translate, you probably know from kind of your personal usage of just understanding kind of quickly how to translate different languages. It's gotten incredibly better. I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but around this time last year, the translation team started applying machine learning to many of the languages, and the quality has really improved dramatically. So it's been impressive to see how much it's changed. And then other tools, again, to really build that customer loyalty. So really important thing, especially if you're looking at expanding to different European markets, having a localized version of your site is going to be crucial to ensure you're connecting with those customers. Some tools to help you with that. So this one I mentioned early on. This is the Developers Console for internationalization. So you'll find so much here, everything from app localization to getting professional human translation, building apps and websites and other tools for different time zones, languages, countries, currencies, all this information. Really, the message for your development team, or for those of you that are the developers in here today, is internationalization is how you build your products, your website, your app, et cetera, in such a way that they are globalized and can be easily customized for different markets. So that's why part of why we say it's never too early to start thinking about this, because how you set up your infrastructure is going to determine how easy it is in the future for you to scale. So highly recommend becoming familiar with these resources and ensuring that, again, your infrastructure is set up in such a way that when you are ready to add new languages and currencies, et cetera, that this is all just a quick plug and play and that you're not having to rebuild any of your content for other markets. The other piece is actually this one. I recommend more for startups. If you're getting ready to go, want to kind of quickly see what some of the demand is in other markets, but maybe aren't at the point of investing in a professional translation. This is a surprisingly little-known option from Google Translate, where you can actually just add a plugin to your website, and it's pretty much a drop-down menu that can translate into any language you want. It is all machine translated, so it won't be perfect all the time, but it would at least give your users in different markets a really good starting point to understand what you're offering them in their own local language, and for you to then understand where that traffic's coming from, where are you starting to get more sales in other markets. So again, it's just translate.google.com. The full website's here, but you can also find it at the very bottom of the tool. There's a link that says, I think it's like translation for business or something like that. It's all free, so it's all available for you. Final step in the process is thinking about launching, measurement, and again, that brand building. So again, with this, lots of information on Market Finder. If you are new to digital, highly, again, recommend checking this out, going through a lot of the information here. And also, even if you're well-versed and want to get a sense of how are things different in different markets, check out this section. You'll have more information on the markets that you're focusing on. To give you a sense, it'll kind of start off with strategy, analytics, measurement, and then other marketing tools focused on things like search, display, video, apps, et cetera. This is one I really want to point out is, again, along with getting your own data, and that kind of, again, from kind of a development perspective, setting up your information in such a way that you can easily understand what is your user's journey in different markets. Setting up the right attribution model is really, really critical. For those of you that are new to digital, attribution is really understanding that user's customer journey. When did they first come to your website? Did they check in on a mobile device? Did they purchase on a desktop? Did they purchase in store? Setting up all those little triggers to understand how do they actually get that information and reach to the point that they're actually purchasing. That will be critical for you to then understand how is your brand being built, how are you reaching those customers most effectively. So take some time, if you don't have it set up, ensure that you're kind of building it in a way that's right for your business. Again, other tools here, search, display, apps, video, so much information available, a lot of really good best practices. So as you're getting to the point of connecting with your customers in different markets, or if you're even here in Ireland and just want to better understand some of the resources available, this is a great section with a lot of information there. So just as an example for search, again, this would bring up for the topics that you're interested in. So in this case, I was thinking B2B as well, like what's going on, what about some search engine marketing, email marketing, what's the demand in different markets for these topics. And in Italy and Spain, monthly, what's the volume of searches, what's the average cost to get a sense of how expensive it would be, and thus what would potentially my strategy be. So play with those sections, and that really will cover it for Market Finder. Again, this is a tool of just kind of designed to get you started and helping you, giving you the information you can trust so that you can prioritize where to go and how to go about doing it. Couple other tools I just want to quickly walk through. One is if you're, again, looking to start with digital, one of the questions we get a lot is, this is great, we're going to go to new markets, we know where to go, but we haven't really dove into digital, we're a startup, we're a little bit bootstrapped, we don't have the money to invest in really having someone do this custom for us, what can we do? There's a website called Digital Garage, Learn Digital with Google.com. Again, we'll send this all out via email. And it actually will walk you through different trainings. If you have the resources and the time that you want to control this yourself in-house, this is a really good place to start learning, all free, and you can upskill yourself or your teams in some of the best practices in digital today overall. The other option that I would recommend is looking at the site called google.com/partners. This is where if you do want to outsource, or outsource is the wrong term there, but if you want to find a partner, whether it be an agency, a marketing consultant, et cetera, and want to ensure that they are certified in how to use different tools, these are the partners that are certified with Google. So it gives you a good starting point of where to trust. You can type in your local area, so if you're in Dublin, type it in, you'll see a whole list of different agencies and marketing consultants that have done the certifications and are partners with us. So if you do want to kind of pursue that part of your digital journey, recommend checking there in terms of which agencies you might want to start with. And then one other tool, so this is around customer research. So maybe you've gone through Market Finder, you've potentially launched that country, but you're really trying to understand a little bit more about how users in that country are interacting with your brand, what they think of your brand, how they go about purchasing. This is a paid option, but it's a very easily scalable survey. So you can, I believe it's available in about 10 markets right now, so it's not all, but most of Western Europe, the UK, the US, et cetera, it's available in. And you can just set up a quick survey that will go out to users in those markets. And you can filter it also if you want a very specific audience. If you're just looking for, again, in my case, might be B2B. If you're just looking for B2B buyers, you can create filter questions to ensure that you're getting that right audience. So if you are looking for more data that's relevant to your business, this may be one to consider. So that's really it overall, is coming back to that bigger sense of starting with building a plan, prioritizing a short list of markets of where to go next, building that strategy for how you will go about doing it, and potentially it would be a short-term strategy plus a longer-term one. Preparing your operations for those markets, and again, depending on your industry, those might be very different operations market by market, so ensuring you've done the right research, you understand, for example, payment methods will vary, especially once you start to go outside of Europe. What are the changes you need to have in place there so that you're not losing customers as they're going through the journey and then bouncing off at the end before they actually make the sale. And then having that measurement in place as you launch and really tracking your brand and understanding its growth. I'd say the last one with this is that Google Trends tool I mentioned again. Just keep an eye on your brand searches. You can easily type that in, check it every couple months in whatever markets you're looking at, and see how is demand changing for your brand over time, and is something more effective than others? If you're launching a specific marketing campaign, do you see an uptick from it? A lot of that's typically very well correlated. So final couple tools, consumer barometer we talked about. This is where, again, if you want to understand more specific things about how individuals in different markets engage online, what is their experience like? What device are they using? Do they frequently use search engines? Do they frequently use social? What's the internet usage in that market? All of this, if you're a mobile-based business, would be really useful here as well to know, how many people multi-screen in this market? How many devices do they have? What devices do they have? How frequently are they engaging with it? So from a kind of user perspective and the consumer perspective, great wealth of information here for over 50 markets. Thinkwithgoogle.com, if you're not familiar with it, check it out. There's information on specific industries. So for example, there's a travel dashboard for EMEA for those that are in travel. You can look at the position of different channel partners in the path to purchase. Seasonal trends, especially a lot coming up with the holiday season in Western Europe and the US, and much, much more. So always a great one to keep in mind. I think they have a newsletter as well that will highlight kind of new features and tools that might be useful for your industry. And then two quick things that are just related to, again, going global and internationalization. We'll send out the link to this one, for all of these. But if you really want to find it urgently, you can also just Google AdWords Help Expand Globally. And it's a guide. It's a step-by-step guide of just from the AdWords Help page, how do you go about, again, planning your international expansion if you're looking to use AdWords and grow your opportunities abroad in that way. And then the final part for AdWords as well is we have a community that's set up just for users like yourselves that has more and more content. This is coming from my team. So you'll see more as we go there. You'll see everything from details on Australia, Latin America, to more general topics around mobile and international growth, or how to go about starting your journey. So check it out. It's about a year old now, so there's a lot of really great content on there. And it'll just give you a great resource with some of the most up-to-date information from Google on international growth. So that is it for me today. I did want to thank you all, and we will take some questions. But thank you for coming here. Welcome to Google again, and I hope that we can help you grow in your international journey. Cool. So, any questions off the bat? We can also take questions outside, but anyone who wants to share with the larger group? All right. My colleague's actually here with me as well. So Manon is here. She works with the French market. So if you have questions about France, or you work with apps as well, and retail, a whole bunch of different industries. So we will both be outside, so feel free to come up to us afterwards as well. Ask us any questions. Take the flyer on Market Finder, and have a really good rest of your day. Happy Friday. Thank you.